The Boston Bruins re-signed their lone remaining restricted free agent. Where exactly does he fit into the lineup, if at all? And we're also going to discuss a couple other burning questions that remain this offseason.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoke B. Today is Wednesday, July 16th. Thank you so much for making Locked On Boston Bruins your first listen every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. On the podcast today, we are going to discuss the re-signing of John Farinacci to a one-year, two-way contract that was announced on Tuesday. He was the lone remaining restricted free agent to deal with, and with that tied up, we also look at where he might fit in the organizational depth chart, as well as a couple other burning questions for the Bruins right now, including, will James Hagens sign his ELC or go back to Boston College? And who should be the next captain for the Boston Bruins, David Pastrnak or Charlie McAvoy? Before we get into all that, a quick reminder, you can find the podcast on social media at Locked NHL Bruins. That's on X, Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, TikTok. You can also follow me, my hockey thoughts and dad jokes at Ian C. McLaren. Before we get into the Farinacci signing and the other burning questions, some breaking news here on Wednesday morning. It is schedule release day around the NHL. I believe the whole schedule will be dropped around 1 p.m. But we do know the Bruins home opener is set. It will be Thursday, October 9th, 7 p.m., TD Garden against Connor Bedard and the Chicago Blackhawks. Tomorrow's podcast, we will take a look at the schedule and pinpoint some of the key games to keep an eye on. So that is in just less than 3 months from now until the home opener. And, of course, we'll be keeping you locked in and locked on with all the Bruins news over the remainder of the offseason. One bit of news that came down yesterday was the re-signing of John Farinacci, 24 years old, a one-year, two-way deal with an NHL cap hit of $775,000. The Bruins, of course, still free to add to their roster between now and the opening of training camp, which is now less than 2 months away, with the home opener set for less than 3 months away. But Don Sweeney can at least enjoy summer a bit more comfortably after taking care of the team's final RFA. Along those lines, I am planning to do an episode on everydayers will maybe remember. I talk a lot about kind of these timeframes where the roster can be evaluated. One is after July 1st and the draft, where you have key free agent signings, your draft picks in place. Another one is on opening night, because we know that over the remainder of the offseason, there could be some additional signings, trades, or PTOs that are signed. Then there's the post-trade deadline with all the additions or subtractions around then. And then, of course, right when you go into the playoffs, because if you're lucky enough to get to that stage, there's all kinds of health considerations, guys off the roster because of injury or coming back off LTIR. So maybe we'll break that down a little bit later on in the offseason. But for now, Farinacci, who was originally a third-round pick of the Arizona Coyotes in 2019, has re-upped with the Boston Bruins for 1 year on a two-way deal. If you'll remember, he opted not to sign with Arizona and joined the Bruins as a free agent in 2023, following a pretty standout career at Harvard. Since then, he's been a steady contributor in Providence, 22 goals, 76 points in 129 games over the last 2 AHL seasons, including back-to-back 30-point campaigns. Last season, he increased his goal total to 12 and earned a well-deserved call-up near the end of the season. He made his debut with the Boston Bruins on April 15th versus New Jersey and delivered. Scored a goal, 3 hits, won 6 of 8 faceoffs in just under 11 minutes of ice time, which is pretty impressive. 5'11", 196-pound forward, plays both center and right wing. So he's got that versatility that makes him an appealing depth option for Boston's forward group. That kind of jackknife, able to play up and down, left and right and center, strong in the faceoffs, strong two-way game, some penalty killing abilities, and a nice depth piece to have in the organization. But when you look at the depth chart, there's a real reality check in terms of his chances of playing NHL minutes once again this season. The Bruins have 4 NHL forwards currently under contract, including guys who can play center or the wing like Marat Husnudinov, Marcus Delic, John Beecher, Sean Corrali. You have Pavel Zacha, Morgan Geekie, Casey Middlestat, Elias Lindholm. A pretty crowded group when it comes to kind of those jackknife guys at the NHL level. Victor Arvidsson in there as well, Michael Esimont. The only players who are waiver exempt currently on the NHL roster, according to Puckpedia, are Matt Poitras, Fraser Minton. Then you have guys like Farinacci, Fabian Lysell, who are also waiver exempt. There are some guys who require waivers if they are to be sent down, including Beecher, Husnudinov, and newly signed guys like Alex Steeves and Matej Blumel, who currently penciled in to start on the Providence roster, but if they do make the NHL, they would have to be put on waivers in order to be sent down. So that makes Farinacci a flexible call-up option. The fact that he's waiver exempt, unlikely to break camp with the NHL team unless there's an injury or a surprise, but he could be right near the top of the list in case of a bottom 6 need. And the fact that he can be called up and sent down without having to go through waivers is a bonus. Whereas some of the other guys, unless it's an emergency situation, if they're called up in order to be sent down, they would have to go through waivers. The fact that he's a right-handed shot could also help. Many of Boston's best face-off options are lefties. If he continues to improve in the dot, proves himself to be a reliable penalty killer, there is a path for him to grab NHL minutes in 2025-26, mostly due to that waiver exemption, the fact that he does not have to go through waivers in order to be sent down. But realistically, looking at the depth chart, he's probably behind Steeves and Blumel at this point. He's definitely behind Poitras, Minton, Husnudinov, Beecher on the depth chart. In terms of minor league guys, Fabian Lysell, Dan Schluck-Mellish might get a shot over him. Patrick Brown always seems to find his way up to Boston. There's Jeffrey Viel. I haven't even mentioned Georgi Merkulov. So it's going to be difficult for him to get that first call up or be the next man up. But because of his versatility, waiver exemption, strength in the faceoff dot, he is a contender and a guy that well worth keeping around for at least one more season. Now, with that free agent signed, restricted free agent, there's a couple other big lingering questions here in the middle of the month of July. The first one is, should top prospect James Hagens turn pro or return to BC for another season? Let's dive in here as the podcast continues. We've all been there, eh? Logging on early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. And that's where Gametime comes in. Gametime makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. We bought some tickets for Goo Goo Dolls and Dashboard Confessional coming up next month, and we were wondering what our view would look like. The app shows you a panoramic seat view, so there are no surprises when you arrive at the venue. Take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets and show tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app. Last minute tickets at the lowest price, guaranteed. Let's move on to one of the biggest remaining pressing questions for the Boston Bruins this offseason, and that is whether top prospect James Hagens, who was drafted 7th overall at the 2025 NHL entry draft, will he go back to Boston College for his sophomore season, or will he go pro? There have already been a few 2025 NHL draft picks who have signed, including Anton Frandell with the Chicago Blackhawks. Jacob Bryan has signed with the who picked him? I can't even remember. Matthew Schaefer has not signed yet. Frandell signed. Just looking at the list here. Jacob Bryan with the Seattle Kraken. Radim Murtka with the Buffalo Sabres. Benjamin Kindell, 11th overall, Pittsburgh Penguins. Braden Coots with the Vancouver Canucks. Victor Eklund, New York Islanders. So there are a bunch of guys who have signed. The highest pick to have signed so far is Anton Frandell. And we're waiting to see if James Hagens will sign or go back to Boston College. Now, I mentioned the other day how Scott Wheeler at The Athletic had his list of the top 100 drafted prospects, and James Hagens was number 8 on that list. And after dominating at the NTDP, starring at international tournaments, he entered his draft year as a favorite to go number 1. And as such, guys who go number 1 typically do sign their ELCs and make the jump to the NHL right away. He still had a very good freshman season, point per game, logging 20-plus minutes regularly. Some scouts wanted to see more goal scoring and physical assertiveness against bigger NCAA competition. The goal scoring kind of deferred to his line mates, who are highly touted NHL prospects. He did bounce back at the World Juniors, serving as Team USA's number 1 center, gold medal winning squad. Had goals in the semifinals and the finals, 9 points in 7 games. The question is, what is best for his development? Option 1, return to Boston College. More physical maturity to gain there, the opportunity to dominate and build confidence. There's no need to rush a player with top-line NHL potential, and the Bruins can preserve a year of his entry-level contract. Now, it's possible that he could go back to BC and they still burn a year on his ELC if he plays later in the season. But overall, thinking long-term, it's probably best that he does go back to college, where he can, again, dominate, build confidence, grow, strengthen, develop that physical assertiveness that some people thought was lacking, and more importantly, not rush him to a team where perhaps too much will be asked of him too early in his career. And also preserving that year of his ELC is important as well, because you don't want to burn that in like a developmental year or one where he's not going to be super productive. If they can get his draft plus 2, 3, 4 years instead of plus 1, 2, 3 years in the NHL, that would be beneficial. Option 2 is to turn pro now. His skating, playmaking already look NHL ready, and he could accelerate Boston's youth movement, excite the fan base, and, could spend some time in the AHL after a 9-game NHL look. According to Wheeler at The Athletic, Hagens plays a breezy, high-skill game defined by dynamic skating, elite small area skill, transition creativity, and vision through layers. He's slippery, smart, confident, competitive, with the frame that isn't overpowering, but does hold up. Will it hold up against NHL competition at this stage in his career? That's a big question that you have to ask. Now, the comp for Hagens, according to Wheeler, is Logan Cooley, who was drafted 3rd overall in 2022. And he actually did go back to the NCAA for his post-draft year. 2022-23 season, University of Minnesota, he had 60 points in 39 games and then hit the ground running with then Arizona, 44 points in 82 games as a rookie. Last season in Utah, 25 goals, 65 points in 75 games. That's probably the same track that Hagens should be on. For a team that's not in win now mode, giving Hagens one more year to dominate the NCAA, round out his physical game, might be the smartest play. Let him step into the NHL when he's ready to take over a top 6 role, not just kind of survive at the NHL level or be relegated to the bottom 6. And don't forget, the Bruins could be a bit better this year, but they could be not great. And the 2026 NHL draft features Gavin McKenna, who is one of the very best players, or was one of the best players in the Canadian Hockey League. He's going to Penn State and could be just a shade lower than a Macklin Celebrini, Connor Bedard, but a perfect wing man for James Hagens down the road. Same with 2nd overall potential Ryan Rubrioch, who is a big guy in the OHL. There's a pretty deep draft coming up. So by putting Hagens in the NCAA, better for his development, could also improve Boston's chances of getting a high-end pick in 2026 if the retool kind of doesn't go as planned. So I'm kind of erring on the side of sending him back, even though I would love to see James Hagens in black and gold as soon as possible. I'm all in on his hype and think the Bruins truly lucked out by him dropping to number 7. And they'll benefit from that for years to come. Now, one other burning question. With Brad Marchand gone and re-upped in Florida, who should be the next Bruins captain? David Pastrnak, Charlie McAvoy. We'll discuss that here as the podcast continues. Do you ever wish that managing your money felt a bit easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. We looked at our finances recently and saw how much we were spending on eating out, streaming services, and Monarch Money really helped us to consolidate those expenses. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. One final burning question to discuss here on the podcast today. Who should be the next Bruins captain? Marchand was traded to the Florida Panthers in the second year of his captaincy. He replaced Patrice Bergeron, who replaced Zdeno Chara. And the question is, which of the two obvious candidates will be wearing the C next season? David Pastrnak or Charlie McAvoy? Now, both were heavily featured in the reveal of the new jerseys, and it was interesting that both of them had A's on those jerseys. Whether that means someone else will be captain, I doubt it, or they'll be like alternate captains. That's certainly a possibility, but I think it's worth putting the C on one specific guy. You could go with Charlie McAvoy, who is a quintessential Boston Bruin. He is their all situations leader, top defenseman, plays 25 minutes a night, and his style of play certainly fits the Bruins' way. Tough, physical, accountable. He has publicly thanked and lauded both Chara and Bergeron for teaching him what it means to be a Bruin. He does have leadership experience, has worn letters at every level, and emerged as a vocal presence. You could tell how much it hurt him to be out of the lineup late this past season after being injured at the Four Nations face-off, seeing all the guys that were traded while he wasn't around, not being able to fully say goodbye, and not being able to help the team when they were a bit of a sinking ship. He is signed through 2030. He's still just 27 and could be a good long-term fit. On the other hand, you have David Pastrnak, who is a superstar at the NHL level. 113 goals over the last couple of seasons. He is charismatic. He's beloved. He is an undeniable presence, both on and off the ice. That 103 goals is over. He's played 82 games in each of the past 3 seasons. 161 goals, 47 goals, then 43 goals. So kind of diminishing a bit, but again, it's in context with the team around him not being as productive. Still led the NHL in points, goals, assists, 5-on-5 last season. And he's charismatic, beloved, committed long-term, signed through 2031. He's a locker room leader and more serious behind the scenes than some give him credit for. He's also a marketable choice. He already wears an A, sets the tone on offense, and, you can't really go wrong with either one of these guys. If the Bruins want to build around grit, defense, and accountability, both on and off the ice, McAvoy might be the guy. If they want to lean into offense, energy, star power, marketability, Pastrnak might make more sense. There's also a possibility that they share leadership responsibilities, or that, what's more likely, the Bruins will wait until training camp or the beginning of the regular season before naming the next captain. A lot of people are going to be wanting to get out there and buy new jerseys. Do you want to have to buy it and then go back to get the C put on? Maybe for marketing purposes, it'd be better for them to have announced it right when the jersey was revealed. Maybe they did with the A's. Typically, it's a coach decision, so maybe Sturm wants to get a better look at these guys, both on and off the ice. Really, either way, you cannot go wrong because it's a choice between two franchise cornerstones. McAvoy, Pastrnak, Jeremy Swayman, the triumvirate of Bruins core players right now. And you can't go wrong with either two of those skaters. I don't think they'd go off the board and go with like Zadorov or Lindholm, although those guys will have increased leadership responsibilities as they did when Charlie Coyle, Marchand, Brandon Carlo were traded. So there you have it. The Bruins have locked up Farinacci. They've got a major decision to make with Hagens, and the captaincy torch is ready to be passed. We know that they will be playing their home opener on October 9th against the Chicago Blackhawks. There will certainly be a captain named before then. Well, maybe certainly isn't the right word because perhaps, again, they go with a dual leadership or don't name a captain right away. I can't see that happening. I really do think we'll see David Pastrnak wearing the C to begin the season home opener on October 9th. And apparently the season opener, according to Steve Conroy of the Boston Herald, will be in Washington on October 8th. So kicking off the season with a back-to-back. The full schedule will be released later today. And on tomorrow's podcast, I'll be sure to break it all down with the key dates that you need to know. For now, I'm saying Hagen's back to college. Give Pasta the C and let all these depth guys battle it out for the bottom six. Thanks so much for taking the time to listen to today's podcast. Let me know what you think. Drop your comments on YouTube. Hit me up at Locked NHL Bruins or at Ian C. McLaren. Make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Boston Bruins on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Be back tomorrow with more on Boston's offseason, the schedule, where things stand with the rest of the league. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Do check out the Locked On NHL podcast as well. League-wide stories from our local experts. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other, and we'll talk to you again here on the next episode of Locked On Boston Bruins.